Yo, what's going on, guys? Tomahawk Warrior here, and we're back. I do apologize for the massive break in videos, but the holidays were pretty hectic. I didn't have any time to really upload anything, but we're back now. We're finishing off our kind of monocolored series that we started at the tail end of last year with our mono white commander, Giada, Font of Hope. I'm really excited to show off this deck. I love Angel Tribal, and so I decided to try and make Angel Tribal work with a little bit of lifesteal. So that's what this whole deck is designed to do: is use sorry, not life stink, life stink, lifesteal, life link in order to help us get through the early game, and then get to the late game where we're able to cast big angels with massive effects that will just win us the game. So starting off, we have our commander, Giada, Font of Hope. She's a 2/2 angel, flying vigilance. Each other angel you control enters battlefield with additional +1/+1 counter on it. For each angel you already control, she can tap. You add 1 white mana, spend this mana only to cast an angel spell. So, fantastic commander. She's a 2 cost, so she's really cheap. Helps us cast our bigger angels in the mid to late game. Um, Ideally, an opening hand has 2 mana, so you can cast her on turn 2 and just go from there. So, getting to the deck, we do have, like I said, we're doing some Lifegain shenanigans. We have Yuzhani as well to come, a 30 of the consoles to help us control our opponent. Cleric class, again, help us to gain life. Deafening Silence is an enchantment that I definitely thought was needed in the deck, where each player can't cast more than one non-creature spell each turn. So it does help us kind of deal with blue counter decks and/or early aggression red aggro decks that like to use stuff like lightning bolt not to kill off our small creatures. So this way they only get to use one of them. I found it to be a pretty good card to help us get through that early portion of the game. Next, we have our 1 cost Flying Vigilance Angel. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name because I can't. Um, I will say one thing, guys. I don't have any changelings in this deck. Any of these angels that you see that you don't like, 100% swap them out for changelings if because they will come in as angels and they might be a little bit cheaper. However, a 1/1 flying vigilance for 1 was just too good to pass up, so that's why it's in the deck. Next, we have Soul Warden. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, gain a life. Amazing. Speak of the heavens, Vigilance Lifelink 1/1 Human Cleric. You can tap, create a 4/4 Flying Angel token, activate if you have 7 or more life than your starting life. So this is a great card for the early game. If you can get some early life life link or life gain early enough that we can get up to our higher than 7 life, start making angel tokens, help us start doing damage, and more importantly, protecting ourselves with those tokens. Next, we have the Swords of Plowshare. Exile target problematic creature. Its controller gains life. You just have to have this card in a mono white deck. Yuzhani's Primate. It's the only non. Okay, well, it's one of the few non angels in the deck, not the only one. I'm pretty sure it's the only cat. For whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 in it. It's an early enough card that gets bigger over time, which makes it a problem. So it does force opponents to deal with it, which is why it does make the cut for the deck. Angel of Unity. It's a 1/3 Angel Cleric, flying lifelink. Whenever it enters play or you cast a party spell, choose a party creature in your hand. It permanently gets +1/+1. So again, early card being only 2 costs. It's a 1/3 flying and lifelink. It will buff stuff in our hand. However, there aren't that many other real party cards. There's the cheap clerics, and then there's a couple angel warriors. So you're not going to get a huge amount of value off of her effect. But however, the lifelink and the flying is why we want her in the deck. Next, we have Bishop of Wings. It's 2 costs for a 1/4 human cleric. Whenever an angel enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 4 life. Whenever an angel you control dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Just a good card to have. Helps us to generate that life to start hopefully getting our Speak of the Heavens going. And like I said, just keeping our life high during the early game is kind of required. Next, we have Daxos, Best Beloved Son. It's a 2 cost to question mark demigod. It's something's equal to my devotion to white. However, it's in the deck because whenever another creature enters the battlefield or dies, you gain a life. So again, like I said, Angels do really struggle with the early game, so anything that'll help us keep our life high enough that we don't just instantly die is good. Going on with the theme of gaining life, we have Griffin Aviary. At the beginning of my end step, if I gain 3 or more life this turn, create a 2/2 white Griffin creature token with flying. Um, I will say one of the big things, and the big reason I don't have changelings in this deck is because I think flying is just such a good mechanic. Being able to just avoid a ton of creatures that can't deal with them is why I have all these cheap angels and stuff like Griffin Aviary just to create tokens with flying. I think it's really, really strong, so I really leaned into that theme. Next we have Hushbringer. It is a 1/2 fairy, creature with flying and lifelink. Creatures entering the battlefield and dying don't cause abilities to trigger. This is a fantastic card. It shuts down actually quite a few decks, so don't expect it to live very long. But when you get it out at the right times, it will just absolutely ruin certain decks. Next we do run Revitalize. It's a 2-cost instant. I gain 3 life, draw a card. I mean, it's just a good card for 2. Voice of the Blessed, Spirit Cleric. It's 2/2. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Voice of the Blessed. As long as it has 4 more +1/+1 counters on it, it is flying Vigilance, really good. And then as long as it has 10 or more, it is indestructible. So this again, get this out early. It'll generate value and become a problem for your opponents. And then if it gets 10 counters, it's really hard to deal with. And being a 10/10 flying Vigilance creature, you just kind of get to laugh at your opponent for letting them get this card kind of as fed as it is. I don't expect it to stay on the field long, but again, problematic creatures in the early game are good because it helps us, get our lands out that we need, get to the mid game where we can start doing stuff. Next, we have Youthful Valkyrie. It's a 1/3 angel with flying. Whenever another angel enters the battlefield under control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Really good card. Banishing Light. It's a 3-cost enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent my opponent controls until Banishing Light leaves the battlefield. So this helps deal with stuff like, Ulamog, Ujin, um, any of the Pyrexians, and problematic card. I honestly think it's really important to run in this to have a little bit of control, which is why it's in the deck. Next, we have Celestial Unicorn. It's a 3-cost, 3/2 unicorn. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Like I said, we leaned heavily into the gaining life aspect of the deck, so we have all the cards that will generate value with life gain. Next, we have Heliod, Sun Crowned. It's a 3-cost god. Has indestructible as long as my devotion to white is less than 5. It isn't a creature. Whenever I gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature or enchantment you control. I can pay 1 and a white. Target creature gains lifelink until the end of turn. So, great card. It's cheap enough that I can play it, not worry about it not being a creature. Whenever I gain life, I put a +1/+1 counter on whatever I have out on the field. And then I can also give stuff lifelink for 2, which is fantastic. If this card gets out early enough, it's fantastic. If it gets out later, it's a 5/5 indestructible creature. So there's really no downside to putting this card in the deck. Next, we have Inspiring Overseer. It is a 2/1 angel with Angel Cleric with flying. When it enters the battlefield, I gain 1 life and draw a card. So this card is pretty good for the early game. I mean, at no point is drawing a card a bad thing. So it makes the cut for the deck. Next, we have the possibly most broken angel that there is, Resplendent Angel, for a 3-cost, 3/3 with flying. That's already really good. But at the beginning of my end phase, if I gain 5 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 angel creature token with flying and vigilance. I can pay 6, and until the end of the turn, it gains +2/+2 and lifelink. So for being as strong as it is, it has no reason to be this cheap. It's a fantastic card. I would definitely see it being up by 2 mana and still being very good. But being a 3-cost angel that does all that, it's an auto include in any kind of angel deck or life gain deck, honestly. Next, we have Resplendent Marshal. It's a 3-cost, 3/3 flying angel. When it enters the battlefield or dies, you may exile another creature card from your graveyard. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control other than Resplendent Marshal that shares a creature type with that exiled card. So ideally, one of your angels dies, you play Resplendent Marshal, banish that angel, all your angels get +1/+1. 3 costs for 3/3 flying. Next, we have Righteous Valkyrie. It is a 2/4 angel cleric with flying. Whenever another angel cleric enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness, which is amazing. As long as you have at least 7 or more life, then your starting life tile creatures you control get +2/+2. So this is a fantastic card for 3. Helps buff all of our other creatures as long as we have a high life total, which is why we play all those cheap cards that gain us life. Next, we have our human cleric that makes angels cheaper. 3 costs. I mean, it helps get our big creatures out quicker. Obviously, we're going to run Treferi's Protection. It's an instant where Until your next turn, your life total can't change, and you gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. This card, amazing for a couple reasons. If your opponent goes to board wipe, you can play this, banish everything, and it's safe. If you don't have anything you can do on your turn, and your opponent's already wiped your board, don't take any damage that turn. Just phase out, come back the next turn, try again. Or if you've already swung, your opponent's swinging for game, cast this, just don't die, bring all your stuff back in untapped, and then just attack your opponent for game. It's a fantastic, really versatile card. Next, we have a new card that I was unaware of until recently, Book of the Exalted Deeds. It's a 3-cost legendary artifact. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, create a 3/3 white angel creature token with flying. I can pay 3 and tap, exile Book of the Deeds, put an enlightened counter on an angel. It gains you can't lose the game, and your opponent can't win the game. So I have seen this card actually come in real clutch for several reasons. One, it's a really cheap artifact where if you gain 3 life, you get an angel token, which is amazing. In historic ranked, where you see Lifegain decks just kind of run rampant, this card has made a huge resurgence in the meta, at least that I've seen, for gaining flying angel tokens. And then if you're really struggling with something, have a creature that can't die, or you're just not going to ever block with, and make it so that you can't lose the game as long as that creature's on the field. It's a fantastic card. Put it in all your decks that you can. Next, we have Yajani Strength of Pride. It is not a cat, so what I said about Yajani before doesn't count. It is the only cat in the deck. This is a Planeswalker. But yeah, Yajani the Pride is a 4-cost Planeswalker, 5 loyalty. It's +1, you gain life equals the number of creatures you control, plus the number of Planewalkers. -2, you basically get a Yajani card where whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then if you have at least 15 or more, then your starting life total, exile this card in each artifact and creature your opponent controls. So, great card to have. You gain life, and then if you have 15 or more life, you get a board wipe from this Planeswalker. Fantastic card. Makes the cut for the deck. Next, we have Champions of Tier. This is a kind of odd card because in the real world, it doesn't work the same way as it does in Arena. I actually made a really funny meme with it. But for what it does in Arena, it's really good. So it's a 4-cost, 4/3 Angel Knight with flying and double team. When Champions of Tier enters the battlefield, you get a boon with whenever you cast your next creature spell, that creature enters the battlefield with your choice of a +1/+1 counter, flying counter, or lifelink counter on it. So you get a lot of versatility from this card with either getting a lifelink or a +1/+1 on it, depending on what card you have. Giving one of your smaller angels lifelink or a +1/+1 isn't bad. And then once you get your big creatures, giving them that lifelink counter is fantastic. Obviously, double team being a arena only card mechanic is interesting. So basically, you're going to get this card twice once you've attacked with it, which is really interesting. I think it's a really good card. However, like I said, if you want to cut this card, put it in Changeling. I'd probably recommend Imposter of the Sixth Pride. Because it's white, but I mean, you could really put any changeling you want in. Next, we have Conclave Tribunal. It's an enchantment with Convoke, so you can get this card out pretty quick. So again, this just helps us deal with our mid-game, problematic creatures that our opponent will have. Get rid of whatever is generating them, either a ton of ramp or a creature that you just cannot allow to live. Obviously, we do need some board wipes, so we do run Day of Judgment. It's a 4-cost, destroy all creature cards. Next, we have Liliana, Keeper of Silence. Again, this is another just outstanding card for 4. They had a 3/4 Angel with Flying. Activated abilities of creatures your opponents control can't be activated. So this, again, will just shut down certain decks. Protect this card as best you can, just like that the Fairy. However, it's probably not going to stay around long, so get it out when you can. Get as much use out of it as you can, and then prepare to have a backup plan for when it dies. Next, we have Seraph of the Dawn. It's a 4-cost, 2/4 angel with flying and lifelink. Not the greatest angel in the world. Like I said, put a changeling in your deck if you don't want this angel in. However, it does have flying. It does have lifelink, which is why I've kept it in the deck. Next, we have Sarah Paragon. It's a 4-cost flying angel, 3/4. Once during each of your turns, you may play a land card from your graveyard or cast a permanent spell with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard. If you do, it gains when this permanent is put into the graveyard from the battlefield. Exile it, you gain 2 life. This card is amazing. Either it'll help you get back lands that have been milled, or it'll help you get back your really cheap angels. I've actually seen people neglect to put to the Giada go to the command zone and just put her in the graveyard and just constantly bring her back with this card. Do beware, be made aware though that once this card's gone, if that your commander's in the graveyard, you're kind of screwed. Be very careful. I have lost games because of that, but this card is just fantastic. It's an auto included in an angel deck. Next, we have Sierra the Benevolent. It is a 4 cost planeswalker. You can either plus her up by 2. Creatures you control get with flying get +1/+1. Majority of our deck has flying, so that's really good. -3, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance, or you can -6, get an emblem with if you control a creature, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead, which is really good. So you basically will gain the ability to not lose when you would lose. But her -3 is just really good for getting, again, more angel tokens, which is always good. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with giving all your angels +1 into the end of the turn. Next, we have Shadow Disguise, because most of our angels are going to come in and be pretty big. Each player who controls a card with power 4 or greater draws a card, then destroy all creatures. So it is ideally used as a board wipe when we need it to be to draw a card. However, if necessary, it's fine to give your opponent a card too and just wipe the board. You don't want this put in Wrath of God, which I do have in this deck, but basically, if you don't need to run 3 board wipes, just swap that out for Wrath of God. Next, we have Smothering Tide. Yeah, we are running Smothering Tide. I'm sorry. It's a 4 cost enchantment. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If they don't, you create a treasure token. So this helps us get our get as much mana as possible as quickly as possible. Very rarely is it ever going to come up that your opponent's going to actually pay the 2. So basically, whenever they draw a card, you're just going to get treasure, which will then be used to help pay for our expensive angels. This card gets out early, it's amazing. If it gets out mid game, it's meh. And then if it gets out late game, basically just don't bother casting it because there's probably something better you could cast. Next, we have Starhelm Unleashed. It is a 4 cost sorcery. Create a 4/4 Angel Warrior creature token with flying, vigilance. If the spell was foretold, you create X of this token instead. Basically, if you have this card in your hand, chuck it down, foretell it, bring it back late game. If it's the mid game, just cast it for its 4 cost, get a 4/4 Angel Warrior token. Next, we have Tharband Watcher. It's a 4 cost Angel 2/2 Flying Vigilance. Other non-token creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Vigilance. This is a fantastic card, giving Vigilance and the +1/+1. We do run several cards that do try to buff up our Angels, so this is why it makes the cut. If you'd rather have a different card, than this, there is a knight that you could put in that would do something similar. We do run Aetherflux Reservoir. Basically, whenever you cast a spell, you gain a life. Then you can pay 50 life, and it deals 50 damage to any target. So you're just gonna basically gain 51 life and then shoot your opponent to death with this. If you can get this card out early, do it because it will generate you life. However, you're probably not gonna get to use it at that point, but just accept that that's the way it is. If you are gaining a lot of life, kind of hold in your hand until you have the 51, then just play it and shoot your opponent. Next, we have Angel of Destiny. Probably one of the most interesting cards in the deck. It is a 5 cost 2/6 Angel Cleric with flying and double strike. Whenever a creature you controls deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each gain that much life. At the beginning of your end step, if you have at least 15 or more life, then your starting life total each player Angel of Destiny attacks this turn loses the game. So it is in itself a win condition. However, it is kind of weird that it does give your opponent's life. Be careful with this card. Next, we have Angel of Grace. It's a 5 cost 5/4 angel with flash and flying. When it enters the battlefield, until the end of the turn, any damage that reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1. You can pay 6, exile Angel of Grace from your graveyard. Your life total becomes 10. This is a really good card. If you have it in your hand and you have 5 open mana, your opponent attacks you for game, you play this card. You don't lose the game. You gain a blocker with flying. Yeah, it's a good hand trap to have. I have seen it catch people off guard. Next, we have Angel of Invention. It is a 5 cost 1/2 angel, flying vigilance, lifelink, fabricate 2. Other creatures you control get +1/+1. It being a flying angel with lifelink is really good. And then the fabricate 2 is actually pretty decent. Basically, you're either going to get 2 +1/+1 counters on Angel of Invention, or you create 2 color servo artifact creature tokens. So either you get some blockers, Or Angel of Invention comes into the battlefield as a 4/3, which isn't that bad. Next, we have Angel of Sanctions. It's a 5 cost 3/4 angel with flying. When enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-land permanent your opponent controls until Angel of Sanctions leaves the battlefield. And it does have Embalm for 6. Really good angel to have, helps you control the board. Um, I have not ever seen it not do good, so that's why it makes the cut for the deck. Then we have Baneslayer Angel. It's a 5/5 angel with flying, first strike, lifelink, protection from demons, and protection from dragons. For 5 cost, the 5/5 is good. Giving it first strike, flying, lifelink is really good, and then the protection on top of it is just ridiculously good. Cleansing Nova, a situational board wipe. It's 5 cost sorcery where it either destroys all creatures or destroys all artifacts and enchantments. Finally, we have, I believe, our final non-angel creature, Crested Sunmare. It's a 5/5 horse. Other horses you control have indestructible. And then at the beginning of your end step, if you gain 5 or more life this turn, create a 5/5 white horse creature token. Really, really good. Put this in any deck where you gain life and has white in it. Finally, we have Divine Devastation. It's a 5 cost equipment. Whenever one or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. So this is the reason why I do have so many cards that will create angel tokens, because they will become bigger angel tokens, or if they're not 4/4 angels, they become 4/4 angels. Next, we get Elspeth Conquers Death. It's a 5 cost saga. For its first turn, exile target permanent opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater. Non-creature spells your opponent's cast cost 2 more to cast until your next turn is its second, and finally its third. Return target creature planeswalker card from your graveyard to the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it, or a loyalty counter. Normally you see this card in Planeswalkers decks, but because it's a white saga, I put it in this deck. Fumigate, it's a 5 cost board wipe where you destroy all creature cards. You gain 1 life for each creature card destroyed this way. God Eternal Okra, it's a god, so it doesn't count as a creature, so I'm still right with what I said. It is a 3/6 zombie god with double strike. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 4/4 black zombie warrior creature token with vigilance. And then when it dies or is put in exile from the battlefield, you may put it in your library third from the top. Like I said, we're creating tokens with this card. If we have our Divine Visitation out, they become Flying Angels, and if not, I just get a 4/4 zombie warrior creature token with vigilance. Really, really good. Next, we have Lara Dawnbringer. It's a 5 cost angel with flying, first strike, and lifelink. Other angels you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink, so this gives everything lifelink and a +1/+1, which is why it's an auto include in this deck. Also, being a 5/5 with first strike and lifelink is really, really good. Next, we have Light of the Legion. It's a 6 cost 5/5 flying mentor angel. When it dies, put a +1/+1 counter on each white creature you control. So this is ideally, it comes in, gives something mentor, then it dies, and you buff all your small angels that are still alive from the early game, and now they are a problem. Like I said, if you don't like this card, put a changeling in its place. Next, we have Sierra's Guardian. It's a 6 cost 5/5 flying vigilance angel. Other creatures you control have vigilance, which is why it makes the cut for the deck. Having vigilance in angels is really, really strong, because normally they're really powerful, so just having them both as attacking and being able to defend the following turn is really good, which is why I love this card. Next, we have a newer card, Steel Seraph. It's 6 cost angel artifact creature. You can either prototype it for 3, where it becomes a 3/3 creature, or you can play it for its full cost of 6, where it is a flying angel. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains your choice of flying, vigilance, or lifelink, which is a really good ability to have to either give your angels lifelink, or to give them lifelink, or to give them lifelink. Basically, you're always going to be giving stuff lifelink. It's rare you're going to want to give stuff vigilance, but I mean, heck, if you need to, it's there, which is why I think this is a really good utility card to have in the deck. Next, we have Valkyrie's Harbinger. It's a 6 cost angel, 4/5, with flying and lifelink. At the beginning of each end step, if you gain 4 more life this turn, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. Really good angel, makes more angels. It is expensive, but we're getting to our expensive angels, so everything from this point forward is just going to be expensive, so kind of accept it. Next, we have Angel of the Dire Hour. This is the secret win con of the deck. It is a 7 cost angel, 5/4 with flying and flash. When Angel of the Dire Hour enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, exile all attacking creatures. So it's a one-sided board wipe. that gets rid of all of your opponent's creatures that are attacking. It does have flash, so it will catch people off guard. I have won games with this card in my Kalia deck. In this deck, you'll get to see it kind of come in clutch in one of the videos. But yeah, this is a really, really good card. Put it in your deck if you have it. Next, we have Glorious Enforcer. It is a 7-cost 5/5 flying lifelink angel. At the beginning of each combat, if you have more life than your opponent, which you should by the way this deck is designed, Glorious Enforcer gains double strike until the end of turn. So it becomes a 10/10 for when it's attacking for 7. It's not bad. Next we have Sephira Skyblade. It is a 7-cost 7/7 angel. You can pay 1 white and tap 4 untap creatures you control with flying rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Other creatures you control with flying have indestructible. So this is a game winner in itself. When it comes in, it's a flying 7/7 lifelink angel. You can cast it for a lot cheaper than what it should be able to because basically all of our deck has flying. So you can pay for it really early on in the game, and then it makes everything else but itself indestructible. It is a shame that it doesn't make itself indestructible, but that would be kind of powerful, so it's a fantastic card to have. Next we have Sierra's Emissary. The 7-cost 7/7 angel. When it enters the battlefield, choose a card type. You and creatures you control have protection from that chosen card type. So this, again, will just shut down certain decks, either giving us protection from creatures, from sorceries, from instants. Whatever your opponents are playing, you can tailor this card to be just kind of like a utility. We don't die to that card. Really, really good card. Next, of course, we have to play Avacyn Angel of Hope. It is an 8-cost, 8/8 flying vigilance indestructible angel. Permanents you control have indestructible. So, if this card gets on the battlefield, it's pretty much this game because everything we have is indestructible, including this card. Really hard for your opponents to deal with it. So if you get this card out, usually you just won the game. And then finally we have Parthenon 2. It is a 8-cost vehicle, 5/5 first strike vigilance. Whenever it attacks, create 2 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance that are attacking. It does have crew 4, which means we do have to dedicate usually 2 small angels to it. However, 5/5 flying vigilance first striking vehicle that creates 2 angels is well worth the cost. I was actually really excited to put this card in the deck because I do have this card in real life and I wanted to see how well it would do, and it has done fairly well. And then we go on to our lands. We run Desert of the True, Gate to the Citadel, Idyllic Gear Range, 32 plains, and 1 secluded steep. So all in all, we have 39 creatures and 36 lands. So hope you guys enjoy the gameplay videos.
I've been watching you. I can see you. was naked. You got me blushing. And if forever I follow, you'll be my holy ground. You forever I follow in immortality. I can see you and me. no heart beating inside your chest. It's vanished into thin air, never to be seen again. Never to be seen again. Never to be seen again.
And there you have it, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy the deck list. Like I said, trying to do Angel Tribal. However, I think Angel Tribal is just a little bit too weak. So putting the life gain aspect into the deck, I feel made this deck actually really, really fun to play and actually pretty competitive. Giada is a fantastic commander to have for the deck. Really, really good. Really, really cheap. And then just letting us get out enough angels really quickly, surprisingly, allows it to be pretty aggressive as a deck. And then, like I said, once you kind of get to that mid game, your other angels become cheaper, so you have to play them quicker than what you should. I think it's really good. You got to see us get a really good win with Angel of Dire Hour, and the Steel Seraph did come into play kind of a little bit in some of the videos. If you did like the video, guys, drop a like. Remember to subscribe. Comment down below what you thought I could improve on the decks. I'm always looking to improve my decks, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.